Aside from the fact that it was just really corny line delivery, which really can be forgiven in Star Wars. It's happened many times before, but "they fly now" has become the not good kind of meme because troopers always flew. Hi, Misha here, and I thought we'd look at 4 generations of jet trooper or jump trooper or aerial trooper, from the Clone Wars to the Empire to the First Order to the Sith Eternal Trooper. In a lot of ways, they're similar and different. And of course, these are all 6-inch figures from the Black Series collection, Hasbro, Star Wars. Let's dive in. We begin with the clone jump or jet trooper, often called an aerial trooper, sometimes also rocket trooper, dating back to the days of the Old Republic. And these are very much like their Mandalorian forebears. In fact, these were trained by Mandalorians. Let me adjust you up a bit. And Camino. They even used a version of the Mandalorian jetpack, the JT-12, called the JT-12C for clone, which is a mass-produced version of the somewhat smaller jetpack, a little lighter. It does still have an ordnance launcher on the back, which is good because these were used as assault troops. Now, I know some other clones, like, say, Commander Cody, had a jetpack, but he wasn't primarily a jetpack trooper. And to have kind of a large gun in his hands, because these often carried Mirsun ion pulse launchers or rocket launchers. This is actually the one that came with the B-1 battle droid from about the Battlefield gaming greats, but that's okay because really the clone jet trooper made a name for himself in gaming greats, so it works. At least I think so. I've kind of noticed we have a dearth of rocket launchers and whatnot in the Black Series, although there is supposed to be a rocket trooper coming out, not the jetpack kind, but one with a rocket launcher later on. They started off with Phase 1 clone armor. They were at the Battle of Geonosis. And of course, they would upgrade to Phase 2. And it was pretty much the same armor and helmet, just with the Mandalorian-inspired jetpack, and typically carrying heavy weapons. And they would often carry a DC-17 pistol as a backup. And that's actually what this figure came with, was a DC-17. But he didn't come with a holster, which kind of bugs me. And it looks a little strange with that just as his main gun. So that's him on the ground. Let's put him in flight. There he is on the stand and spinny thing. And there were environmental versions meant for cold weather, wet weather, desert weather. And they could operate in near vacuum, low oxygen for a bit, especially with the original Phase 1 armor. Phase 2 required an external air source, but they were used to great effect, often using EMPs to disrupt battle droids and what have you. And they were based on Old Republic plans and designs, but they would only serve for a few years because officially the clone Aerial Trooper Corps was disbanded in 19 BBY when the Empire came to be. But they would carry on, the lineage would carry on with our next trooper. Officially the Jump Trooper. This is a Stormtrooper variant, specialized variant. Sometimes called Aerial Assault Trooper, Rocket Trooper. These were designed to kind of jump around, more short bursts, not so much fly as just hop around the battlefield and attack ground targets. They were also able to operate in 0G. We see two versions over the years. One of them has kind of a TIE fighter pilot setup where you have hoses coming from the helmet and they connect to a chest pack. But as you see, this one here has the hoses going to the backpack, which is probably more of a long duration. This is the version we see in Rebels. They were operating kind of based off the clone jet troopers, phasing over with Stormtrooper armor. The only real change to the armor, it's a little bit beefed up, especially they have these larger shoulder pads that come down further. Also a little bit more reinforcement in the legs for landings, kind of obvious. He has a holster for an E11, and I've just given him a DLT-20A rifle. These would often carry a rocket launcher or some other, heavy artillery, but they would sometimes just have more medium range blasters depending on their exact duties. They needed to carry heavy weapons for assault, but at the same time, you don't want to weight them down too much because that will have a negative impact on the jetpack. I really think this is a neat trooper. In the real world, the first mention of a jump trooper, jet trooper, was actually in 1993 in one of the old Nintendo games. And they appeared in the Force Unleashed game, and they were basically made canon after a number of years. Like I said, they were in Rebels. Before that, they were in the original Battlefield, Battlefield 2, and there's been a few different designs, but this seems to be the most official because, again, it's the one seen in Rebels, which is definitively canon. I also really like the hose look. I was pretty impressed when I got this one. The jetpack's even removable. Speaking of, early on, the jump Stormtrooper, carried the same JT-12 type pack, but soon a new, more compact version, the AJP-400, was introduced. It was less of a target, a little more streamlined, and while it gave shorter bursts of flight, again more jumping, it had some limited recharge capability and more uses in the short modes, so it suited their needs better, although of course it didn't carry an ordnance launcher. On the other hand, it also carried oxygen for the helmet, because these were 0G troopers. Not sure if I said, but these were seen in 0 BBY operating outside of the Death Star. That was kind of their deal. So they were more vacuum oriented than the previous models, so assaulting installations on airless moons, asteroids, as well as high altitude areas, mountains, maybe working on skyhooks, what have you. I really like this figure. He just comes with his E11, but I liked adding the other gun for him. But yeah, we first see these unofficially in games in the 90s, and then they become canonized in the 21st century, long before the Rise of Skywalker. But speaking of the sequel trilogy, well, I think the fly now is silly, as most of us do. The Trooper isn't bad. He has a very sleek armor, and he actually has kind of little fins on his legs, guards maybe for navigating better. And sometimes these would just carry the standard F-11D used by the First Order, but often they had specialized weapons. And these are the first to have a true integrated jetpack. This is actually part of the armor, not something just strapped on. and it's relatively compact, not as small as the AJP400, but much smaller than the JT12C. So they had some specialized equipment. Pretty neat, I think. The new version of the jump pack, the jetpack, was the NJP900 integrated pack. While it could serve as a jump pack, it was designed more to be an actual flying pack again, hence its larger size. It was also designed to operate better in a vacuum, as was the First Order Jet Trooper's suit. This guy actually first appeared in 2016, and then would appear in the newer Battlefield games, and then of course would appear in the live action. Now the gun he's holding is the G125 multi-ordnance launcher. It can fire a blaster bolt, but it also has 3 projectiles built in. That's what those 3 barrels are. So it can act as a pistol, also a small ordnance launcher, kind of micro rockets or grenades. And then on his hip, I gave him an F11AB, which is the heavy-barreled, longer-range version of the F11D. Mostly just because I had a spare one. It does clip to his hip there, but it did kind of force me to get creative with the mounting. The thrusters do move on the pack for this guy, which is nice, and I do like that it came with the the G125, but I wish the 125 had a holster or a clip. It doesn't, so he's got to hold it. But these are the infamous They Fly Now guys. Luckily, they are pretty neat looking outside of that. And with that, we have one more, which is actually very similar. The Sith Eternals Jet Trooper, or Zero-G Stormtrooper. He's the same in red. Now, if you look at the regular Sith Trooper versus the First Order Stormtrooper, there are quite a few differences, both physically in the toy model and in the universe. But in reality, both in the movie and the figure, they just painted one red. The helmet may be slightly different, but don't hold me to that. He did come with the F11AB, which is why I gave my spare one to the other guy. Seems like a good weapon. And for his primary thing he's holding, I gave him these clamps. This actually came with the, Comic-Con version of the Sith Trooper. He came with 5 or 6 weapons. And I thought, well, he's jumping around. He can grab onto things with this. Because this guy really was designed for more space operations, sabotaging ships, installations. So, it seemed like a good zero-G weapon. The tongs do move in this too. See? They open up quite wide. So, theoretically, you could grab something with it for posing, and they close almost fully. So that's kind of neat. It's a neat enough thing. And as far as I know, he is supposed to kind of hold it over the top like that. But, yeah, he's the same. I picked him up basically because he was $10 shipped, so why not? That's the thing about the Rise of Skywalker ones. It was hard to resist picking them up when they went on really good sales, just because they're kind of fun. And again, I don't hate the designs themselves, even if I'm not fond of the film. See if I can get one of these to rotate for you. Yeah. Their jets both rotate, you see there? You can position them. Neat little feature. Which is good because each one just comes with one gun and a non-removable pack, so otherwise they might seem a little meh. But at least if you have added articulation, it gives you something to kind of crow about. But you can really see the evolution, and these do look sleeker, more modern compared with their predecessors, in my opinion. So these actually do look futuristic, whereas some of the stuff in the sequel trilogy, not so much. Well, I just wanted to do a bit of a shorter, more focused video. Thought this would be a good one. The original jetpack is relatively big and kind of bulky. And as we know from Boba Fett and even Jango Fett, they're somewhat easily damaged. They've got decent flight time and they contain a rocket, but yeah. The updated version used by the Empire has more limitations, but it is more compact and presumably more durable. But you do have kind of exposed air hoses for your guy. When you move to the First Order style, that's all integrated, and you do have a more functional pack with pretty much the same qualities as the original, if not better, but it is more streamlined. And all the air is inside, so makes him a little less vulnerable. But of course, if you want him to be seen, well, I don't know, they say red cars are actually hard to see on the road, so maybe red is technically more camouflaged in certain situations. I'm not sure. You guys who can see color, let me know. But no, I just thought it was something fun to talk about. Which one is your favorite? Mine has to be the Stormtrooper variant. Just neat. I like hoses. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.